решением в отношении России. Он мужественно выдерживает это давление уже.
Fourth Reich? That is how Sergey Lavrov describes the European Union, as Moscow sees Brussels pressuring Serbia to recognize Kosovo and align with the bloc's Russia policy. But this is not just another Kremlin attack on Brussels, because in the same interview, Lavrov connects the EU's pressure, Germany's military ambitions, and Western backing for Ukraine into a much bigger confrontation with Russia.
At this stage, the European Union is mocking him and simply blackmailing him. They say, yes, look, you have been standing in line for a long time, but we will accelerate negotiations when you fulfill two main requirements. First, recognize the independence of Kosovo, and second, join all our actions and decisions regarding Russia. He has courageously withstood this pressure for more than a year. This pressure is brazen and boorish. They act as if they already have a Fourth Reich.
And then Lavrov turns to Germany. Berlin wants to become Europe's leading military power again, and that one word becomes the center of Moscow's warning. Because for Russia, Germany's military rise cannot be separated from the history of the last century. And Lavrov goes straight for the historical nerve.
Of course, this person is unworthy of holding any position in media structures, let alone any official positions in the government apparatus. The metastases of Nazism continue to break through to the top. In German society under the leadership of Merz, who openly declares the need to again make Germany the main military power in Europe. Whether he understands what the word again means in this case, I am not sure.
And that again is doing a lot of work here, because Germany is not only rebuilding its military, it is also one of the key European powers backing Ukraine. So in Moscow's framing, Berlin's military buildup and the war in Ukraine are increasingly part of the same picture. And Lavrov's warning to the West is blunt. Russia says it will hit what it sees as the machinery keeping Kyiv's war effort alive.
We will not stoop to them, but we will make our own methods much harsher to destroy everything that feeds Kyiv's military machine from the West. And we are already doing this, and they are already starting to groan. And it is no coincidence that more and more voices from different parts of our shared space are calling to stop immediately. That will not work. We need to stop when there is a long-term, reliable, sustainable settlement.
And this is where Zelensky comes into Lavrov's argument. Moscow is not describing the Ukraine war as a conflict that can simply be frozen along today's battlefield. Lavrov is portraying Kyiv as a regime being sustained by the West, while accusing it of celebrating attacks that he claims hit civilian locations. Those are Lavrov's allegations, but the bigger point is what he does with them next. He takes the war straight back to Russia's defining historical memory, the defeat of Nazi Germany.
Moreover, after every such terrorist act, representatives of the regime proudly boast on social networks and other resources about how great it was that they struck a beach, a dormitory where girls were studying, teachers, and other strictly civilian objects.
And now, the historical argument becomes a reason for rejecting a simple ceasefire. Lavrov says stopping at the current line of contact would mean, in Russia's telling, allowing the sacrifice of the generations that defeated Nazism to be erased. That is why the Ukraine war, Germany's military resurgence, and Europe's support for Kyiv are being placed inside the same WWII-era narrative.
If we suddenly stopped now at the line of contact, we would, in essence, allow the feet of our grandfathers and great-grandfathers who defeated Nazism to be erased. This is impossible to consider, and it is not just about how comfortably someone lives today. Our people are suffering, as I say, they are dying from these terrorist acts. But it is about our responsibility for the 1,000-year history of the Russian state.
So, look at the picture Lavrov is painting. The EU is behaving, in his words, like a Fourth Reich. Germany wants to become Europe's military power again. And Ukraine, backed by that West, is being presented as the front line of a much bigger confrontation with Russia. But beneath all the World War II rhetoric is a very present-day warning. Moscow is saying, no freeze, no return to the current line, and no easy way out, until Russia sees what Lavrov calls a long-term, reliable, and sustainable settlement. And until then, Russia's methods, he warns, will get much harsher